Hello and welcome back to Simon's Rants. I'm Simon and today I'm giving my own second thought on Django Unchained. Now this is your spoiler warning. If for whatever reason you haven't seen it yet, you should go watch it, come back, and we'll talk about it then. So Django Unchained is the 7th film directed and written by Quentin Tarantino. It came out in 2012. It's starring Jamie Foxx, Christoph Waltz, Samuel L. Jackson, and Leonardo DiCaprio, and boy, this is another fun one by Tarantino. And it's got great acting all around. I know people talk nonstop. If you bring up Django Unchained, people are going to talk about Leonardo DiCaprio in it. And understandably so. Leonardo DiCaprio, he is one of the greatest actors of this generation, and he is great in this, gives one of his best performances in this. He should have won an Oscar for it. He didn't, but whatever, he got it for Revenant later, whatever. And yes, he is amazing in this, but I would argue that Samuel L. Jackson is even better in this movie. Samuel L. Jackson is another greatest of all time kind of actors, and he delivers a phenomenal performance in this where he has to play the house slave, which is a slave that is in charge of all the other slaves, who essentially takes the side of the master in whatever he says, so he becomes hated by everybody essentially. And this is such a despicable and hard character to play, and Samuel L. Jackson does it so well. It's such a role that he seemed to really relish and dive into and was able to pull it off so well. I think he deserved an Oscar for this as well, but neither one of them did. Oh well. Now speaking of actors in this movie who should have won Best Supporting Actor, you've got a third one in Christoph Waltz, who plays the bounty hunter who helps free Jamie Foxx, and he is also phenomenal. I cannot stress enough, this movie has the most amazing acting of any Tarantino movie, period. You might have a singular performance here or there in a Tarantino movie that's better than any one performance in this, but across the board, overall acting, this is the best Tarantino movie for it, in my opinion. And on top of that, the story is great. It's fairly original, and it's just entertaining to watch in the most Tarantino kind of way. He takes a story that should be dark and depressing, and he makes it enjoyable because of his way of portraying violence in such a stylistic and over-the-top way that you're able to kind of detach yourself from it and enjoy the ride as you watch Django go through these horrendous things to finally win back his bride and destroy evil to a certain extent. And it's phenomenal. I wouldn't say it's a flawless movie. I still hold it to a lesser height than Inglourious Basterds or Pulp Fiction, but it is a really, really good movie. In fact, the only real complaint I have with this movie is you've got Django going through his first attempt to free his wife, and there's this big bloodbath, and then he gets captured, and then he gets taken away, and then he escapes, and then he has another bloodbath at the end, and it's just a little bit repetitive because you've got these two bloodbath fights a few minutes apart. That's my only real criticism for it, though. Everything else about this movie is fantastic. Christoph Waltz and Jamie Foxx also, not only are they great individually, they've got great chemistry together, and that's part of what makes this movie so enjoyable, is these characters. I can't stress enough how good Tarantino is when he's in his element, and this is exactly in his element, where he's letting the characters drive this story. He understands how to make characters so well, so when he is writing characters this way, the movie doesn't even need a plot to get by, and it's still amazing. This movie happens to have a plot, though. That's a really good plot, so the movie gets elevated even more, and it's even better for it. There's very few flaws you can point out in this film. Even Tarantino's foot fetish isn't that much of a distraction in this. You get like one shot and that's it. That's pretty good for a Tarantino movie. And then on top of all that, you've got a great cameo by Jonah Hill, who plays a member of the KKK or whatever. They've got these white masks on, and they all start complaining about not being able to see. That scene is like straight out of Blazing Saddles. It's fantastic. I love it. And this is where you start to see Tarantino start paying homage to movies the right way, and he did do it in older movies as well, like he did it in Pulp Fiction and maybe even in Reservoir Dogs a little bit, but it's where you are making an original movie that is standalone without paying homage to anything, but then you take little moments here or there and you start paying homage. Like in Pulp Fiction, you've got them doing this dance that was torn directly out of 8½, which is this old Italian film. And then in this, you've got it paying homage to Blazing Saddles, which is one of the greatest comedies of all time. And it's great to have these homages that don't take away from the overall movie as well. So not only is it a great movie, it's also at the same time paying homage to what Tarantino loves. And this is how I really do appreciate Tarantino, and I do think he's at his best, is when he's making his own original work that's great, while still being able to appreciate the things that came before him, and kind of in his own way thank the things that came before him and inspired him. So, yeah, Django Unchained. What else do you say about it? The violence, yeah, it's crazy, it's over the top. You have stupid, silly things like somebody is standing here and he gets shot from this direction and they go flying that way. It's silly, it's stupid, it doesn't make any sense, but that almost makes it more enjoyable in the weirdness of it and the craziness of it and the zaniness of it. So yeah, it's silly, it's over the top, there's way too much blood. It's so ridiculous. The writing is just phenomenal. I know I already said that, but the writing really is phenomenal. There's not like a single wasted conversation in this movie. Every conversation in this movie is captivating in some way, and it really is peak Tarantino in the way he's able to write these conversations in such entertaining ways. And it really does harken back to the old days with Reservoir Dogs and Pulp Fiction and later Inglourious Bastards, that you really missed this style of writing in between, in the Jackie Brown era and the Kill Bill era, where the conversations dragged. When it comes back to these conversations, it's almost like you forgot how good Tarantino was at writing because of those other movies. And then when he comes back with these, you're like, wow, he might be the best screenwriter as far as dialogue is concerned ever. I mean, that's saying a lot. There have been great writers, but his dialogue is awesome. Yeah, I know, that was another short one. It's hard to really drag out these reviews of movies that are just phenomenal, because how many times can you say a movie's great? And if you haven't seen it for whatever reason, you should definitely check it out. It's been on multiple lists of mine. It's on my top 100 movies of all time list for a reason. This movie is great. So that's what I thought of it. Please let me know in the comments below what you guys think. And if you're new here, please subscribe. Also, don't forget to like and share. Thanks, guys. Bye.